What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a must-draft sleeper at all four fantasy football positions. So on running back sleeper, wide receiver sleeper, quarterback sleeper, and then tight end sleeper. I just think these guys are really nice late-round targets. If you enjoy the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you guys have your own sleepers you're looking at this year, let me know down below. And then the ADP is going to be from Underdog, so just keep that in mind. We're going to start off at the running back position here, and my RB sleeper is going to be Zach Charbonnet. He's currently going off the board as the running back 42, and I'm just going to be very in on him this season. I feel like worst case scenario, I think his outlook is one of the better handcuff running backs in the NFL. Like say, Kenneth Walker steps in, he's the clear-cut RB1, Charbonnet's not even competing for like committee touches. I still think Zach Charbonnet is the guy where if Kenneth Walker goes down, Charbonnet is going to get really strong usage as the handcuff option. And at like a mid-tier RB4 price tag, RB42, that's where I'd be willing to draft like a really solid handcuff. So I feel like even at his floor, this is still a fair price. Zach Charbonnet is like a mid-tier RB4 option. And I just don't think it's a guarantee that he's like completely buried behind Kenneth Walker. Both these guys were round 2 picks. Charbonnet has the better receiving profile from his college years. And then both guys were like equally involved as pass catchers last year. Zach Charbonnet was actually the guy who was the more efficient runner last season. I feel like everyone views Kenneth Walker as like the clear-cut best pure runner in this backfield. And I do think, his first year he was really impressive. But last year, like Zach Charbonnet had the better yards per carry. He was better in rushing yards over expected per attempt. So I definitely don't think it's like this, set it and forget it situation where Walker's just the clear RB1. We also have a new offensive coordinator coming in this year. So just another reason why we could see some shift in usage. Zach Charbonnet heading into year 2. I would just not be ruling out like a pretty strong committee here. And if this is a close committee, 50-50, 60-40, like I think both these dudes could be viable weekly plays. So I just think Charbonnet is being drafted very, very close to his floor, and I think he's a really nice later round value pick. Now at the wide receiver position, we're actually going to be sticking around the same offense, and it's going to be Tyler Lockett, who's currently going off the board as the wide receiver 51 on Underdog. And I understand, there's some reasons why Lockett should be pushed down this year, but getting a guy as talented as Tyler Lockett as a wide receiver 5, in my opinion, is insane. Like, I get it. He's 31. He's going to have target competition with DK Metcalf, JSN heading into year 2. But even last season, in a down touchdown year, he was still the wide receiver 37 in points per game. We have new offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb coming in, and he ran an offense at Washington where we saw Dunze, Polk, and McMillan all produce on the field together. So I'm definitely not worried about like a new offensive coordinator situation here. And then outside of last season, Tyler Lockett was a fantasy wide receiver 2 in points per game from 2018 all the way through 2022. So he had been very, very consistent on a year-to-year basis. I know he gets like the rep for being like super inconsistent week to week, which, I think is fair, but year after year, he was giving you wide receiver 2 production. Like I mentioned, he is kind of getting up there in age, but I do think he has less injury risk than a lot of other wide receivers in a similar age range, just because he's been very healthy throughout his entire career. The fewest games he's played in a season is 15. And then also, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the clips, but like he rarely takes big hits. He's typically like sliding, diving forward before contact's even made. So he's not someone who's going out there and getting lit up game after game, especially, not being a huge wide receiver in his 30s. I think that's probably, good to see. And then I also just think that an injury to DK Metcalf or an injury to JSN just opens up a much higher ceiling for him. So similar to Charbonnet, I feel like he's being drafted very close to his floor. Like if Metcalf performs really well and JSN has a huge year 2 breakout, I still feel like Tyler Lockett pays off as the wide receiver 51. Then you're looking at maybe Metcalf gets hurt, maybe JSN gets hurt, maybe JSN doesn't take a huge year 2 leap, and you could be getting like Tyler Lockett wide receiver 3 production at a wide receiver 5 price tag. So very, very in on Tyler Lockett this year. Now looking at the quarterback position, I think quarterback is absolutely stacked this year, and I think there's a very viable strategy of like waiting on the position and just drafting like a couple really solid late round options. One of those late round guys that I really like is Matthew Stafford. He's currently being drafted as the quarterback 19, and I just think at that price, he's a really solid value here. In his 3 seasons with the Rams, when Stafford's been healthy, he has put up really strong production. In 2021, he was the quarterback 11 in points per game, averaging 19.5 points per game. So QB 11, solid production, especially when you're drafting him here as the quarterback 19. But that 19.5 points per game would have been the quarterback 5 last season. So just like kind of difference in the year on how well quarterbacks played. Then in 2022, not as great, had a pretty injury-riddled season, but then he bounced back in 2023, was the quarterback 14 in points per game, and I think his point per game number wasn't really indicative of how well he actually played. He was PFF's 5th best quarterback in terms of their quarterback rankings, so I think, he outplayed where he ended up finishing for fantasy. He is Puka Nacua heading into year 2. Puka should be taking a leap. You have Cooper Kupp, who should be healthy heading into the season, maybe slipping a little bit, but he was dealing with injuries last year. And I just think he's a really strong option if you wait at quarterback, or if you're like drafting a Caleb Williams, a Jaden Daniels at like that, QB 12, QB 13 area, and you want to back one of those dudes up with a veteran, maybe play him early on in the season. I think Stafford's a really nice complement to one of those younger options. So Stafford's my quarterback pick for sleeper. Now shifting into the final position here, we have tight end, and my tight end sleeper is going to be Taysom Hill, going off the board on ESPN as the tight end 18. Now I will give an honorable mention to Ben Sinnott. If I didn't just talk about must-draft rookies, I probably would have had him as my pick here, but we'll switch it up a little bit. Go with Taysom Hill. Now, I will point out that there's no guarantee that Taysom Hill is going to have tight end eligibility on every single platform. I know on Underdog, he's listed as a quarterback, so he doesn't have it there. But on ESPN, I know he is listed as a tight end. It's also unclear whether or not certain platforms will change his designation throughout the year, because I really don't think he's a quarterback. You could definitely question if he's a tight end. He's probably more of a running back if he's, not a tight end. But I do think the quarterback designation is weird because he's really not doing that anymore. But I just think this is a year at tight end where the depth feels really good, in your tight end 1 territory. You have guys like Laporta, Kelsey, McBride, Andrews. I think those are all proven really strong tight end 1 plays. I think you have guys like Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, who can take a step forward this year. And then also like the mid to back end tight end 1 range, you have Kittle, Ingram, Ferguson, and Njoku, guys at tight end you feel comfortable throwing into your lineup. That's 10 players I've listed so far. Then I feel like it starts to get a little bit dicey. I personally like a guy like Brock Bowers as like a later round option, but it is a tough landing spot here with the Raiders. But outside of him, I don't love a ton of the other options. So this is a spot where if I just punted the position, I want to take a swing on a wild card here in Taysom Hill. He averaged 9 PPR points per game last season. That was the tight end 15 in points per game, and he had one of the more unique usage seasons probably we've ever seen. He had 81 carries, 40 targets, and 11 pass attempts, so involved as a runner, receiver, and then also a little bit as a quarterback option. He rushed for 401 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, had 291 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Then he had 83 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. He was very efficient on the ground, averaged 5 yards per carry, especially efficient when you consider the fact that he was used in the red zone a lot, so used on the goal line. You obviously can't be ripping off big plays if you're inside the 20-yard line. So I think he was a very interesting option last year, and the reports out of training camp are that Hill is being used very creatively. You have a new offensive coordinator coming in with Clint Kubiak, and just looking at the Saints' current roster, I feel like it makes sense that Taysom Hill should be getting touches. Right at the running back position, you have Alvin Kamara, who's definitely aging. His efficiency's been falling off. And then their RB2 right now is a pretty unproven Kendre Miller. They don't have a ton of great pass-catching weapons. Obviously, Chris Olave is a stud as their wide receiver 1, like Rashid Shaheed as their wide receiver 2. But behind those two, there's not much going on. You have Juwan Johnson at tight end. And then you have Derek Carr at quarterback. So if you want to run some funky trick play stuff, you're not super concerned about taking him off the field. It's not like you're taking a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen off the field to run a Taysom Hill play, right? You don't feel super bad, taking out Derek Carr for a play or two a game. So I just think the reports we're hearing are that he's going to be used in a very unique manner. He was used, kind of creatively last season. You have some stuff to build off of there. And then just the fact that I don't love the guys outside the top 10, 11 tight ends, it makes me willing to just take a swing here on a late round option like Taysom Hill. So that's going to wrap it up for my 4 sleepers, 1 at every position. Zach Charbonnet at running back, Tyler Lockett at wide receiver, Stafford at quarterback, and then Taysom Hill at tight end. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you like these sleepers? Who are your own guys? Let me know down below. But thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.